getting to walk away every day from something and be able to say, I did that or help make that. I contributed to getting that done. It feels so good and it's so freeing. And if you think that you can't do it because you think it's dirty, it's heavy, maybe you think you're no good in math, you don't have language skills, all of that will come, right? All of that will come. If you are not that book person, if you are that hands-on person, you're going to surprise yourself.
All right, we have Sarah Cowie from KW Masonry here. Welcome to the Masons Conversations. So happy that you could be a part of the show with us today. I'm sure you could have been doing a million and one other things today, but you chose to be here with us, and I appreciate that. I respect that so much. She's been in the trades for a while. We've done a lot of work together. We've collaborated. You've came out. You've actually worked with TMC Masonry and the crews, so thank you so much for that. And again, it's so great to have you on the show. Welcome.
Thank you, Tyler. I'm really happy to be here. And I am so grateful for all the work we've been able to collaborate on and work together on, and that you would even have me out on your team last year. It was awesome. Great experience. Yeah. I learned a lot. Yeah. And we'll do more.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. So KW Masonry, you can find them on Instagram at KW_Masonry. Website, www.kwmasonry.ca, and the phone number they can be reached at is 519-575-0672. Here we go. Mics are hot, and this is going to be a great conversation. I'm excited, just as I'm sure you are. So, Sarah, first question I really want to start the show off with, and this is kind of what we do across the board, is what does blue collar mean to you? What does that community itself mean to you?
I think if I had to sum it up, it's us. We're the boots on the ground. We're the ones that action the pictures. We're the ones that deal with the schematics, and they're ones with the hands dirty. That's right. We make it happen.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I Eddie and I had this conversation so many times, and that's essentially what it means to us too. Across the board, I've been asking that questions. That's really what it means to a lot of people. And a lot of us are very passionate about being a part of that community, the blue collar network. And it's the grit, the grind, you know. I always tell everybody it's like going to war every day. You know what I mean? That's what it feels like to me. And just like you said, you know, boots to the ground. It's look at every structure, look at every house, like look at every hospital, look at everything that is constructed that is blue collar. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So, and it's that sense of pride of being a part of it, and what it does to us too, because, you know, the industry itself, it's especially within masonry, and I know across the board with many trades, it builds such a strong, powerful human mentally, physically, because masonry is not a light trade at all. Like everything we do is heavy. So like talk about the challenges with jumping into the industry, masonry specifically, and understanding the physical challenges. What was it like to you? Were you like, I got this, like, fuck, I can lift anything? Like, how was it? Like,
oh my God, it was totally not that way. I left a job where I was in pantsuits and heels every day. And I was working for the angriest man. Like, we're talking a man who had a red face every day. He was yelling at people every day. And I worked in an office that was like a cell block. I'm not kidding you. 12-inch block, no windows. Yeah. It's on Colby Drive.
It's on Colby Drive. Don't go there. Don't go there.
Don't go there. It's a bad place. Anyhow, when it came to getting into the physicality of masonry, it was a real shock. It was a real shock to my system. I'd always thought I was strong. I was very independent, single mom for a really long time, and I did everything myself. And if I couldn't do it myself, I'd partner up with my dad or one of my uncles. But I would get it done. Right? It'd be me doing the heavy lifting.
Love it.
And then I got into masonry, and it was like I got slapped in the face by the way of having to put heating pads and hot water bottles on my arms at night and take Tylenol for like 2 months.
Shit.
And I was the scaffold monkey because I was otherwise unskilled. I didn't have any real knowledge. Yeah. I came from a family that never told me I couldn't touch the tools, and I'm really glad for that. I'm lucky. So I wasn't afraid to try, But I'm going up and down scaffold. I got to a point after about 3-4 months where I was like lifting tongs of 7 bricks in one arm and one arming it up the scaffold. Very dangerous, not smart. Okay,
No,
we
I know.
operate
Don't try that at home, kids.
We operate differently now, but it really hurt. And I also went from being, 35 years old, fairly healthy, fit, to being like 36 years old and like having so much muscle. And let me tell you, you're not so elastic once you get through your 30s, right? So I was like muscle and flappy skin. That's what happened to me with masonry.
But I'm sure like, once you jumped into it, your body started to understand like, this is what we're going to do every day. And it started to get used to it, right? I'm sure you weren't doing the whole Tylenol and heat pads for, the rest of your career.
No, my God. It, like I say, it was only like a couple months, few months maybe like that. And then
we don't want to scare people, okay? No, but that's normal even with working out.
Yes.
And lifting weights.
Yep.
You're going to feel muscle soreness, but the more you do it, you're not really going to feel it that much. You still will, but not like that to that extent.
No. It got to a point where I was like, I don't need the gym. I work out every day, all day. And I ended up like a little powerhouse. People would go, oh my God, she's going to lift that? And I wasn't crazy. I wouldn't do anything more than like an 8-foot limestone sill, but I'd throw it up on my shoulder and they'd go, oh my God, she's 5'3" and like at the time about 130 pounds.
Yeah.
Right.
Love it.
And just like a rock. And I would run around for Troy and run his masonry all over the place, throwing bags up over my shoulder because we were so small. It wasn't like I was throwing things in the truck and driving it over. No, it was my body. And you get to a point where you develop a mental toughness. You're like, I'm just going to do this because I have to do this.
That's right.
And we're in restoration for the most part. So it was down to me sometimes to be working with like those great big concrete sills, taking them out of a wall to augment an opening and put them back in. And those sills, we're talking like a 4-foot section. It's over 100 pounds and I'm doing it by myself, right? But you get to a point where like, that's just what you do.
Yeah.
And it's okay. And you're not sore at the end of the day because you do it every day
That's
now.
Right. That's right.
And like 8-9 months of the year, because the restoration side tends to be more seasonal, right? Then you just have to keep it up, right? When you're off, if you let it go, it's just like anything else. You got to redevelop that muscle. You spend the first month, 2 months still sore, right? But you get over it a lot faster. And I find every year, it's just like your body goes, oh yeah, this is what we're doing now. Right? Yeah. It's like a woman who's had multiple pregnancies. Her body just goes, oh, we're pregnant now. Bam! Right?
Here's a baby.
Pretty well, right? Like you go from like that young girl who was like, took like 5-6 months to show to like, oh, you're pregnant at 2 months. You look like you're 5 months along, right? And that's just what it does because your body's like, I know what to do with this.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing when you're developing that masonry muscle. I imagine it's the same with like any trade where you're having to do the heavy lifting. But no, after a while, you just get to a point that that's it. You can do it. And admittedly, there's still times where things are too heavy and you can't be bashful. You got to like call over to the other guy you're working with and say, hey, this is going to be too heavy for me. I need an extra set of hands. And it's great. I've never had anybody give me any flack for that. I worked with your guys last year and I'd look over at Len and I'd be like, Len, I'm 5'3".
I need help.
And I'm like, I almost went back in my mind to trade school when a guy looked over at me and he's like, do you want me to lay that for you? And I was like, yes, please. Because it's above my head and it was 40 pounds, right?
You're not going to break your back. No. You know your body best.
Yep.
So, but regardless, it's just like you mentioned, it's your body will understand the lifting and everything, and it just gets used to it. Yes. What were you doing prior to masonry? So I'm curious because I don't know this.
Oh, you don't know this?
No.
Okay. So I had a very small stint working for a hedge fund company, an engineering firm.
Okay.
And before that, I worked in Apple retail, so the Conestoga Apple store.
Oh, cool.
And I was one of their first managers.
Nice.
And those people work insane schedules. Like we're talking, the store is only open with the hours of the mall, but the management is there sometimes overnight, right? And so I did that, but I spent the better part of 20 years in some form of customer service and all different facets, right? So retail, banquet serving. I worked at the Ancaster Old Mill. I worked at...
Love that place.
I know. Everyone loves that place. It's wonderful. Don't work there. No, do work there if you're putting yourself through school.
Yeah.
Because they are very good with scheduling. But I did all kinds of service. Basically, I got paid to be pretty and nice for the vast majority of like age 12 all the way to like age 34.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right?
Cool.
That's it.
That's a big difference, though, going from, that line of work, boom, into masonry.
Yep.
So tell me about how that happened. Like, how does one go from that line of work to, boom, you know what? I want to try masonry.
I've always liked working out. I've always liked doing things that required a little bit of know-how or looking into. So I would do things on my own house, and it didn't seem that much of a stretch when I met Troy and saw that he really needed somebody he could trust, an extra set of hands. I went out and started mixing his mortar, started loading his scaffold, started helping him load his minivan, right? And then it came to, I was so miserable doing my desk job, my sales job, working for this red-faced, angry man every day. I actually was taking a walk around Colby Drive, and I was in tears. I said, my God, I said, this woman I just trained for 2.5 days just quit because she couldn't make it past 2.5 days working for the red-faced, angry man. And Troy says, well, I'm really busy, and I just secured that contract that you reviewed for me. And I said, oh? And he said, well, if you want to, there's a full-time spot for you at KW Masonry. And I was like, let's do it.
Awesome.
And I said, but if I'm going to do it, I'm going to really do it. He said, I'm going through the apprenticeship. You're going to sponsor me. I'm going to trade school.
Nice.
Right? And so we did. Right?
Love it.
And he was miserable for 2 years.
He was miserable. Why? Why was he miserable?
Teaching somebody like old dog new tricks.
Okay.
Right? Is a really hard thing to do. Teaching somebody who comes from running their own household, helping run a business, working in, a very, very large company where they're in a leadership role, right? It's a big gear shift.
Yeah.
Right? So poor Troy had that to deal with.
Okay.
Right? And I was hard-headed. I thought I had ideas.
Yeah.
I thought I had different ways to do things, right? I was like a couch mason.
That's hilarious. Or like a YouTube mason.
Right? I'm like, oh, we got to have a better way of doing this, right? Seriously. And then...
Just trying to be innovative, that's all.
That's it. The best part is when he tells that now, he's like, it's about a 75 to 25%.
Yeah.
Right? He's like 75% of the time her ideas are worth taking.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? They save your back. They save you money.
Nice.
He's like 25% of the time we all die. He's like, it's going to end badly.
But you know what? I respect that for you even opening up and expressing these things, because obviously some people, they kind of shy about it and they have great ideas.
Yeah.
But they don't come about because they don't open their mouth.
Yes.
And express it, right? So kudos to you for doing that. But you went through trade school.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I went to Conestoga.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, you did the Conestoga program.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people, it's either Conestoga or OMTC, which is the Mississauga program.
Yeah.
So tell me about that. What was that like?
So first year trade school was interesting because, again, I was still really new, right? And I'd like to say it was this wee little thing. It was still like developing any knowledge at all, and doing the work was still hard for me, right? So being put into a program which was basically a 50-50 split of doing the book work and then shop time is a bit of a transition for me, right? I was older. I hadn't been in school since like 1999. Really?
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, less my college, but I wouldn't even call that school.
Yeah.
It was a good experience, but it's not really school.
Yeah.
But being there was actually a really positive experience for me.
Good.
It pushed me. I had to be comfortable being uncomfortable. I had to be comfortable knowing I knew nothing walking in there, that I had barely touched a trowel. And I know that that's the story for a lot of people in their first year, whether it is at the Conestoga program or MTC, right? I went through with a number of guys in my third year who had been to the other. And it sounds like it's pretty similar. that way.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah. And that a lot of the people like me going into first year, I had labored. I had labored so much and parged. Oh, I could parge. Right?
Parging expert here.
Right?
Okay.
Oh, sadly, I'm really good at it. And I wish I wasn't, because then
Noted.
I know.
Noted.
I know. I'm like, please don't. It's going to hurt me.
Yeah.
But no, the going through that program was a great build. So I would say from each term I went through trade school, when I went back to working for Troy, or even if I went from trade school and was working with some of the concrete companies that we worked for in our off season, I came out knowing a little bit more. I came out feeling a little bit more confident, and also more confident to ask questions, right? To say, okay, I see you doing this. I don't think I've done that before. Can you show me? Right? Whereas I was so afraid to admit that I didn't know things before I went to trade school and before I went through Troy Brundle's boot camp of masonry. So, like, really.
I can't wait till he watches this episode.
He's going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe you said that. The boys are going to edit it. Don't worry.
No, we're not. Eddie, no, you're not.
But I'd say first year got me set up to be part of a team on a wall. I loved how Adam Griffin set up the first year program, because he had it that he tried to shake up the class so that you were not working with all production masons in a group of 4, right? There was me, who was in restoration. I had both Owen and Josh, whom you know.
Yep.
They had a production background, and then we had Calvin with us, who, like, he traveled the world for masonry for Canada. Like, that kid was awesome.
Cool.
So I had these 3 powerhouses, and then there was me. But it was so awesome because we got to learn from each other, right?
Yeah, that's a great recipe right there.
It was really smart, right? Like, the guys in the row behind us, there was a guy who had worked for Jim Blackwell, so a chimney mason, right? That's all he does, I think, and which is really cool. He's really good at it. And then they had a refractory guy, a guy who all he did was stone. He had never touched a brick or block. Wow. And then there were refractory guys in the next row, and they were paired up with a production guy and a resto guy. So it was so awesome because we were able to say, okay, the one guy was great at building leads, right? So he would give us all kinds of feedback. The other 3 of us, he'd be like, oh, don't do that. Try this, right? And it would just make things easier for you. So by the end of it, you were actually able to function, right? You'd be able to be the guy in the middle of the wall, probably not a lead guy, right? But you'd be able to make a job happen, right? As part of a team. I don't know if you'd be going out on your own and doing anything wonderful, but you'd be set up to be part of a team for sure. And then through the second year program, a little bit better, right? A little bit more technical, right? Where you were looking at blueprints and doing some of the math, right? It's a very small introduction to blueprint reading, but it was something, right? It would set you up again to be part of a team, to be checking in with a foreman saying, hey, like, I thought the windows were supposed to be here, or, you know, are we supposed to be leaving openings for these vents, right? You'd have a general idea of things.
It's important.
It's a huge important thing, right? And I think that, you know, in my opinion, there needs to be more of that, right?
Agreed.
Because the practical is great and you need it, but you'll also get it on the job, right? And if you're working with the right people, you'll have people who say, whoa, what the hell are you doing, right? You need to stop that. Check this out. Let me show you. Okay, show me, right? To, you know, check the understanding. And I don't think there's enough focus on, like, the functional blueprint reading, right? And that needs to change, but we'll just see. Right?
Yeah.
I know that it's come to light with people that are more powerful than me.
Yeah.
So,
no, that it is.
Yeah.
I think that would be important because especially, you know, a mason who is skilled and has had so much wall time, but they want to take the next step and become a foreman or some sort of leader within the company that they're working with. Yeah. It's great and beneficial to understand blueprints and drawings and how to read them, right?
I don't think they can function in that role if they can't do it.
They wouldn't.
No.
So that's why you're right. That should be more implemented into that program.
But I knew going in that wouldn't be a big focus.
Yeah.
But I think that there were still some good building blocks. There was some opportunity for creativity
Yep.
while operating within the parameters of a box, right? Like you
Yeah.
had to create arches and
I was gonna say, like,
Yeah.
what kind of cool, like herringbone patterns and, you know, like, did you guys do like the soldier courses and having to corbel anything out and like,
all of that. No,
Okay.
corbelling, we did more in third year
Okay.
because they do the fireplace. Right.
got
so
it.
you learn how to do the firebox and you have to corbel in to build the firebox.
Love it.
The outer shell, right? And then you do your finished masonry on the outside of that. So you learn, I love how they do it, is it's impossible not to see
Cool.
how it all plays together.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's because you guys, from my understanding, you guys have to put the fireplace together from start to finish.
Yeah.
Including the
Everything.
the inside of the fireplace.
Yeah.
Because I know they sell inserts.
Yes.
And then you do your veneer around that, which makes it so simple. But you had to do it all with like the fire brick and everything, right?
That's right.
Amazing.
I think it's like kids in calculators, right? They shouldn't be given a calculator until they can be shown that they can do it on paper, right?
Yeah.
That they can do the long version of everything. Because calculator, the battery can fail, right? You can't fail.
I
Right?
love that.
Right?
Sarah, that's such a great way to put it. Such a great way to put it.
So, well, it's all I got.
Yeah. So you went right through to the Red Seal?
Yes,
Did you
I
write?
did.
You wrote it?
I
Nice.
wrote. I passed.
Excellent. Look at you. Big ups.
thank you.
Big ups. That's awesome. Good for you.
I didn't get as high of a grade as I had wanted
But
to.
you got it.
But I got it.
That's what's important.
Yes.
That's awesome.
No.
How was it, you know, being a woman entering the industry? Like, how was that like?
So for me, it's probably a little different from a lot of people because I apprenticed under my boyfriend, common law spouse,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call us.
Yeah.
And so I came in without any stigma, right? I didn't come into a construction crew where I might have to deal with all different personalities, all
True.
different backgrounds, but I did leave and work for other companies while I was going through my apprenticeship. So one of those companies I worked for was G&A, and they're a very large outfit, and they have a very eclectic employee base. And I would say there I encountered more of a varied reception, but nothing negative. I came on with some other apprentices, and I agreed to come on at a lower level than what I was actually at because I thought, well, I'm not a production mason. That's not my background. And I talked to Mike George and I said, I can honestly say I'm not going to be operating at a level 3 or 4th year apprentice. You know, I'm not going to be running circles around your guys. I said, so if we start me at a 2nd year rate and I have to work my way up, I'm okay with that. And he was like, fair, you're in.
That's amazing.
I know.
love how you threw that out there.
Well, I had to, right?
Yeah.
Because he called me out on it.
You kind of set your own tone there, right?
Yeah. Which sort of let me also walk onto the job site with my head up.
Yep.
And I could say, okay, well, actually, Roger, I haven't done production. Turned out when I walked onto the job site, the guy who was my foreman used to take my babies in the morning. His wife was my daycare.
Come on. That was going to lead me to my next question, which was how was it being a mother
Yeah.
entering, you know, this industry? Because obviously sometimes there is long hours and
Yeah.
you were a single mother.
Yeah.
Obviously at the time I know you were with Troy as well,
Yeah.
but like how was that? Like
So
sounds like you kind of had a good thing going though if you had
I did
your
always-
foreman's wife.
it was awesome. So she had been my daycare provider when my kids were very small. So it was funny because I walk on.
Everything circles back.
It sure does. Oh, the world is so small. And anybody who thinks that they're not tied in to the next guy in Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge, like the surrounding area. No, the whole 6 degrees of separation is very real here. Very real. And I grew up in Etobicoke. I can't even tell you how many times I'm going to the grocery store now or I'm filling up a truck with gas and I look over and I'm like, I know you. What are you doing here? You're here to increase our property values. Go away. Right? I'm not kidding. We did 3 chimneys for a guy. He and I graduated a year apart.
Come on.
Never met. And he used to play basketball out the back of the condo where I grew up. I looked him up in my yearbooks. And then I went back to the job site and I said, Adam, I remember you now.
That's amazing.
Because I remember him with all these like tall basketball playing kids.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. I can't do that.
That's crazy.
I'm like, I need a step. Right? But anyhow, no, with that.
Bring a little two-step around with you.
I did in trade school. I got made fun of it until third year. And then the guys all wanted to borrow my two-stepper.
That's awesome.
I was like, how about that? You want to get the top of your chimney, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can borrow my two-stepper.
That's awesome.
But no, as far as being a single mom going in, it wasn't so bad because you're right. I did have Troy, but I had been so accustomed to being on my own that my kids always went to before and after school programs. Yep. If it didn't work out that way, I had also independent, and I wasn't having my kids with Roger's wife anymore because they were older, and she dealt mostly with younger kids. And I think at that point she was actually working in the school system as a EA. Mm-hmm. So she'd relinquished her home daycare. But when the kids were very small, my kids were the same ages as their boys. So it was just perfect timing. When I needed somebody, she was there, and it was literally less than a kilometer down the street.
Amazing.
Yeah. No,
so it all kind of worked out.
It really did. But walking onto a job site where the guy looks at me, I know you. I'm like, yeah, you do.
Incredible. Incredible.
I'm like, you used to like take my baby off my shoulder and my toddler would walk up your stairs. Like,
yeah.
And it
How cool.
It was cool.
That's awesome.
But there, the reception was not cold, but like indifferent almost. Like I was just another worker. Yeah. With some of the older guys, they were like, great, another apprentice. Right? Yeah. And I kiboshed that attitude. I like to say that I pulled the thorn out of the lion's paw because I was told this one guy was just crusty and he was not going to be happy. I was there. And he wasn't happy that any apprentice was there. It didn't matter that it was me, that I was a woman, didn't matter at all. He just felt like everyone who was coming on had this air about them that they knew stuff and they weren't there to learn. Okay. So I walked right up to him and I said, hey, Rick, I need you to show me things. And he looks at me and I said, because I don't know anything. I said, I can spin a trowel. I can throw down mud. And I said, and I can probably do a number of things with your operator and your laborer, but I don't actually have that much wall time. Yeah. I said, by much, I said, I think I've built one wall at this point, right? And he just kind of smiled out of the corner of his mouth. And I said, so whatever you tell me to do, I'm going to do it. Yeah. And he says, okay. And so
love that.
So for
love that you did that.
Very short time that I was there, like 6 weeks, I think I worked with them, and not all on the one job site. Yeah. It was so good because that is how I approached all of their foremen.
Good for you.
All of their senior guys. Well, it helps that I was older too, right? So I have nothing to prove. Yeah. Right. I have proven what I have to. I can function in the world, but I wanted to learn and be able to prove myself in this arena. And I'm still working on that.
Always learning.
Always learning.
Always.
Because if you stop, you might as well die. Yeah. Right? Because everything is always changing. Masonry has been the same way for thousands of years, but the way that we do it is always changing.
That's right.
Right? So I'm happy when I can ask them. I run into guys all the time when I'm at the supply yard because we're small, right? So I go into the supply yard fairly frequently, and I'll run into these guys who do all of the utility work for a lot of the bigger companies, and they'll talk to me because I listen to them. Right. And I'm so excited when I get to employ something that they've taught me. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh my God, that made my life so much easier. Right. Like there's a dish soap trick with smooth brick. And one of the older guys from G&A, he taught me that trick. And I got the chance to try it last summer. And I was thrilled. I was like, look at it all coming off. It's so clean.
It works.
I'm like, everything's beautiful, right? And I'm like, instead of me being in there scrubbing like a crazy person, which I'll do, and I'm like, I hate mortar mess anywhere, right? But to be able to do that just from a 5-minute conversation with the guy is awesome. Yeah. And I run into
those seasoned guys. You get a lot of golden nuggets from what they have to say. Yeah.
And you need them. Yeah. You need them. And if you care to listen to them and they see that you take it in, well, then they want to share more.
Of course.
Right? And I'm like, that's how it's done.
And those are the guys you learn from.
That's it. And I hope to be able to pass those down to my peers, to our apprentice, right? So that like everybody gets better. Yeah. And if we do that, then we only serve to amplify the quality of the trade, right? I don't get the whole like know something and keep it to yourself. I talk too much for that.
Yeah, there's no point in that. But there is no point in like why?
No.
You think you got some secret sauce, some secret recipe
That's
that, you know, like I'm sure whatever they're holding back, somebody else knows. So
Yes.
like, why not just share that information? Stop being such a crusty, stingy bastard.
Right?
Like,
Yeah, no, you're gonna find it
I don't
out.
get people sometimes.
No.
So, but
But you're gonna find it out.
Of
You're
course.
gonna learn it.
Of course.
And I think it's so nice when somebody says, you know what, I'm just gonna tell you so that you don't suffer.
Yeah.
Right? And then maybe you share it with the next guy. That's exactly
yeah.
what he said. I was
Those
like,
seasoned
that's
guys
so good.
are our mentors.
That's right.
Those are the coaches.
That's it.
So, and it's
No.
important to have those people in your life and in your circle of people, your network.
You have to seek them out too, right? You gotta ask. Because no one knows everything.
No, of course.
Yeah.
Never sit stagnant just waiting for these people to come to you.
No.
Because if you want to grow, if you want to expand your knowledge, there's all these things to do. And it's everything that you do, Sarah. Like I'm sure, you know, reading's important,
Yep.
but also putting yourself out there and trying to expand your network and find those people that you can connect with and ask questions.
Yep.
That's important too.
Absolutely.
It's all a part of the recipe to become successful.
Yep.
And it's never changed.
No, and it's your version of success. Like for some of us, we want to
we all have
we want to
different
get bigger. We want to foster the development of many people. Some of us want to stay small.
That's right.
And that's okay.
To each their own.
That's right. It's what works for you, right? And it helps if you keep that conversation line open, then you're able to feed off of each other. I know
Correct.
we've enjoyed that a great deal from both of us.
We're community.
And it's wonderful. It's so nice. No, but as far as like for me coming in, single mom, not so bad. I know it could be worse for a lot of people, but you always got to think problem solution, right? So you got to look at, okay, so the boss needs me to stay. Who can I call? Who can pick up my kids, right? And, you know, maybe you have a community of other parents and you say, you know what, I will look after your kids on weekends, whatever. You make it work, right? It has to go back and forth. And if you do that, then no one feels burdened by helping you out, as long as it's not all the time, right?
I scratch your back, you scratch mine. Yeah.
So I've always had that. I've enjoyed that in masonry and also before then, right? Although I don't need it as much now. And so I've kind of let it go to the wayside because my own kids are 15 and 17. You know, I drove up in the little Nissan Juke today.
Yeah,
right?
I see a cute little car.
It's a little car.
I love it.
I bought that for my daughter to drive because
nice.
she's not driving Dodge Rams around. She's not. I grew up
Start
driving,
with the big vehicles. That's how they learn.
but that is how she learned. I was
Yeah.
so scared to drive with her, so Troy did.
Okay, nice.
I was like, she's gonna kill me.
Thank you,
I can't
Troy.
do it. That's right. So he
Yeah.
drove with Elizabeth, and that little car gets
Nice.
us from point A to B. It's great.
That's all you need, yeah.
So I don't have to worry so much. Like we had like a midday activity, I guess, yesterday with a retired Mason and his wife, and I was like, I need you to get Ian to and from football, right? And I can do that now. Right. So it does go on. Right. I'm not going to say it's not without its challenges because it is there. Right.
Yeah.
You know, there's times that I've had to lean on my parents. We've had projects that were maybe going to run us extended hours, long weekends, whatever. That's why you have family too.
That's right.
Right. And
Support system.
That's it. And I'm super lucky.
Yeah.
My folks are 3 hours away, but they'll drop everything
Amazing.
to come for the kids.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
It is awesome.
Do you see your kids ever getting into masonry?
So I have had them out for sweat equity when they have broken something or they have really, really wanted money for something. I'm like, I can't give you money.
Sweat equity.
Right?
Love it.
Sweat equity actually came to me from a general contractor. He is a very, very smart man. He has 4 kids. You know, first marriage when he was very, very young and his current partner. And it's so funny because he says these kids, they all want to go on vacation. They want to do these things, whatever. He's like, I don't pay them. Right. And because we had commented on one of his kids dropping off a Christmas gift. We're like, oh, that's so nice. And he's like, they're earning their trips.
Yeah,
they're earning
yeah.
And I was like, that's really good.
Yeah.
So when my daughter broke her Apple Watch, I was like, Jesus, that's going to be like X number of dollars to fix
I
or
know
whatever.
the price of those things.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm currently wearing the one that she broke most
nice,
recently because I gave her mine. Because
Okay.
I was like, I am not paying to fix that this time.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, it's the off season. That's not cool. So they've come out, they've done reclaiming.
Cool.
Yeah, on historic properties where the mortar comes off like dust.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, you're so lucky. You're so lucky. My son has come out and done laboring for taking down some pretty substantial chimneys. So they've had a taste for it. My son actually wants to be an electrician.
Okay.
And I am backing him up 100%.
Of course.
I'm talking out, like, because we go in and out of a lot of small projects, I have a chance to actually talk to some of these guys.
Mm-hmm.
And so I plant the seed with
There you
everyone that I meet. I'm like, I have someone. I have someone you
plant
need
the seed
to meet.
and then continue to water it.
That's it. I'm like,
Yeah.
right? I'm shaking fertilizer
Yeah.
by way of Tim,
I love that.
Tim Hortons
shaking
coffee.
fertilizer. Yeah, Tim Hortons coffee. That's
Right?
great.
Yes.
I love that.
So
That's cool.
that's the direction. And I'm like, that's great. Be an electrician, right?
Yeah.
You want to go any trade at all? I will support you.
Yeah,
But,
my
you know,
brother's an electrician,
Yeah.
also framer, but
Nice.
There's in my family, I'm the only one involved in masonry, but they all have their touch in the trades as well. One's in HVAC, one's in excavation, one's an electrician and framers. So
Nice.
essentially build a house from top to bottom.
But isn't that nice?
Yeah,
I love
it.
that.
Yeah,
I love that. Well,
I do.
because, when I think of, like, when I was thinking about, like, blue collar, I'm like, we're kind of like, we're not like a circle. We're like a prism,
Yeah.
right? And every trade is like, one facet of the prism, right?
Yeah,
And it
all go hand in hand.
that's it.
Yeah.
And they have to,
Yeah.
right? One does not stand alone. I mean, okay, maybe you build a chimney or whatever, but it really, it has to build on something, right? So,
Of course.
and everyone's got their hand in there, right? Like a well-oiled machine.
Absolutely.
And I love
Absolutely.
that. I love that.
Yeah.
I love when you
Hell
get
yeah.
to see that, and especially when I get to see, like, my kids recognize, well, one doesn't happen without the other. I'm like, no, that's exactly right. And we don't function well without, like, the white collar side of things either, right?
course.
They all have to come in together.
We need those people too.
Yes.
We definitely need those people. How do your kids look up to mama now as a mason?
Oh, it's funny, right? Because they will tell people, well, my mom's a bricklayer, right? So when they talk about, like, me having to, like, move furniture or whatever, right? Like, I hear them when they're, like, video chatting their friends. Oh yeah, my mom just got a couch. She's moving in, right? And they're like, don't you need to help her? She's fine. She's a bricklayer.
She's good. She's good. I love that. That's awesome. She's a bricklayer.
She's okay.
She doesn't need help.
No, and it's funny. I'm like, yes, I do get down here. This body needs to last at least another 20 years. But that is the thing, right?
Yeah.
And I think that there's a sense of pride, not so much in me, but the fact that they see the relationships that I have managed to foster and continue to build, right? Like, constantly running into contractors that I have worked with and for, and they're like, wow, you know a lot of people, Mom. I'm like, yeah, I do.
Gotta
And you
love
can
business.
too.
Yeah, gotta love business for that reason as well. Because by being in business, you're not seeing the same people all the time. Like, you guys are dealing with clients and suppliers, and
Yep.
the list goes on. And obviously beneficial. You were in the customer service area, so
Yeah.
I'm sure when it comes to customer service, you got that shit nailed right down on the head. So
I do.
yeah, and that's important though, because you're providing a service. You guys are in the resto business.
Yep.
And you deal with a lot of different clients.
Yeah.
You're not dealing with the same client for like 1 month project. You guys are moving around a lot, dealing with a lot of different clients. And I just know this 100%. You guys are leaving a mark, and it's a good mark.
I think so. Everyone is a little bit different, right? Like, we have people who, like you say, from my customer service background, I'm like, hold my coffee, I'll deal with this one, right? Because some people are very easygoing, right? And it doesn't matter if it's dealing with them for construction, renovations, whatever. They don't care, right? They're very, like, lackadaisy about everything. And then there's people who are the complete opposite end of the spectrum. They need you to hold their hand through everything, explain everything several times. And you know what? You do it. You do it because at the end of the day, those people are going to appreciate that. They're going to be confident that you are looking after them, that you're doing a good job, that you care about their project, that it matters. It's not just another one off your list, and that they can contact you, good or bad, later, before, during, right? And they're going to tell their friends They're going to tell their family. And that's how we operate. I can't tell you the last time we advertised.
I was going to ask you, you guys don't do much marketing or advertising, right?
No. Yeah. And that may change. I mean, because things are so cyclical, right? And people tend to look at repairing and maintaining their homes when interest rates are favorable. And they haven't been for a long time, right? So people are being more careful and they're being more selective. So we may end up finding ourselves in a position at some point where we need to market, right? Where we need to do more networking, where we need to make sure that people are seeing us pop up in their social media. And we do that very softly now. Yeah. But I mean, there have been times in, the 10 years that Troy has had his business that we are pelting your Facebook. You see us at every point. Right? It's like subliminal messaging. You need bricks. You need brickwork.
Well, you got to get more eyes on you sometimes, right?
Oh, yes. And I have, the most entertaining time during the off season watching people complain about different things on their houses, right? Their chimney, whatever. And for me, that has given me an opportunity to refer other trades, right? I'm like, oh, we've had this guy. You might want to contact him, right? Whether it's somebody that I've worked with and for, or somebody I have passed by, watched them work, and I'm like, that's good work. They do good work, right? But then I get the opportunity to chime in like a smartass on brick things sometimes.
Okay.
One of those times happened just recently, and I loved it because
what happened?
Somebody did something terrible. Somebody pulled up with a U-Haul to Montgomery Park, which is right by my house, and threw a bunch of max-size Heritage Beige into the forest.
Come on.
Yes. And did
you guys go get them all?
No. Oh my God. I know, right? No, they were in terrible shape. They had clearly been in somebody's garden for a while, right? Like they were, green tinged, whatever. I'm like, nah, this is yucky stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
But my whole point was just being a brick smartass. And I saw the stuff and I was like, that's not from our neighborhood. Because the guy, his question that he posed to a social media neighborhood group was, did anybody hire this guy? Because he just dropped all this stuff across the road from my house. So I took a walk with the dog and went and looked at him.
Of course you would.
Right? I did. I totally did. I'm like, I have to walk Reggie anyway. I'm going to go look. Yeah. And I looked and I was like, it's just as I thought. I'm like, there's no way this brick is from our neighborhood. I'm like, our neighborhood is all Ontario-sized brick and manufactured stone. Peace.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder where it came from.
Oh, I could guess. I could take a very good, educated guess.
Yeah, U-Haul too. Love it.
I know. I bet you I could actually peg the neighborhood.
Okay.
And if I could get a hold of, sadly, one of our own is very, very sick right now. But there is a man who works for Patine's Building Supply who's like the godfather of brick. Okay. And I'd be able to say, hey, Dave, you see this? You know what neighborhood this is from?
Yeah. He would know.
And he would know. He totally would know. Right?
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure that I'm right. I'm not gonna nail it because this is like a public forum.
Yeah.
Like the police will catch them. They don't need my help, right? But I was dubbed the forensic ambassador for the neighborhood on Brick and Stone. And
Come on!
I had such a laugh.
I love that. That's awesome.
But it allowed me to plug us. Right? I said, well, I am one of several brick and stone masons in the neighborhood because actually there are a few, not just Troy and I, right in my neighborhood. And they're all good guys and I see them all the time. And we function in different arenas, right? And so it's all good. I'd be happy to refer them. It's funny, but I'm sure that they got a good laugh at that, right? That I took one look at that brick and I was like, that's not here.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's a good place to be in, right? When you start to work in all different areas, then
of course
you go, oh no.
You know.
Yeah, you do know.
So and that's the thing too. You guys that's your specialty is resto. Yeah. You guys don't really do new build, right? Like
no.
Like have you done any new build?
We've done additions.
Okay.
So we've had the occasional garage addition. There's one in Breslau, right across from the seniors' home. Okay. For a gentleman whom I named my dog after.
Is it your dog Reggie?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I named my dog after a man who still changes his own tires and plays tennis twice a week. He's like 91. He's
That's
awesome.
awesome.
He's so cool. But his brother was a mason. So I talked to him the whole time we were working at his house.
Of course, yeah.
But we did a permacon product on the front of his 3 garage bays.
Okay.
And then his chimney, right? But that was like an addition. And then we've done a couple of different ones throughout Waterloo, but they were really small. And then we did do
Because it has to be manageable for you guys,
That's
right?
because it's just us and an apprentice.
Yeah.
I will say the last like bigger one that we did was awesome and worthwhile taking on because it was manageable for us because we had friends, right? So we were working for a GC who understood where we were coming from. Troy did not want to take on the job.
Yeah.
He always wants to deliver 110%, right? Just like all of us. And so he's looking at this job. He's like, it's way too big. We can't do this. He's trying to refer it to our friends who happen to have crews, right? None of them could take it. They're all busy. And he's like, damn it, we're going to have to do it because he needs us, right? And so our friend Scott said, whatever you need, right? Just lay it all out to me. He's like, we'll make it happen. And the guy, he's been in home renovations for 40 years.
Okay.
So like nearly as long as I've been alive, right?
Yeah.
He's like, it's going to be okay. And we did it, and it was beautiful.
Nice.
And it was okay, right? And now we're doing work for the guy who lives 2 doors down.
Cool.
Because that's how
awesome.
it works, right?
Yeah, of course. And I'm sure those bigger projects are a little bit intimidating, obviously, when you guys get them thrown past your eyes and, you do want to refer them to crews or whatever. But it's cool to actually be able to take on something that big and be like, wow, we actually did it. We were scared at the beginning, but we did it. And now look at it.
That's it. And I'm like, there's more wall ties in those walls than you can choose. We're like, wall ties, we're going to put more in right now. We're like, that's going to hold it all together.
Trust in the wall ties.
Right? Which it doesn't, but we put in more reinforcement than we had to. There's more vapor barrier than we had to. All these things because we're like, we are going to make sure that this is so tight you could sail it.
I love that.
Right?
I love it.
Yeah. Well, because it's not our wheelhouse.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
Yeah.
You guys obviously work on a lot of older homes, right? And I know, there was the one farmhouse actually that we threw your guys' way as well. You guys do a lot of that kind of work, right?
Yes.
I know there was a church you guys did with us too, right?
Yeah.
You guys do like older, like cathedral kind of churches, like
We would. We would. We have. Troy.
I mean, like opening up some old walls or like.
We could.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we could. It's a matter of knowing what you're staring at and then being prepared for everything you can't see.
Because sometimes it's like opening up a can of worms, no?
Yep.
Like even with the chimneys that you guys do.
Oh, yes. We've had some where you open it up and we're like, that's the firebox. I'm seeing the firebox inside.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and that there's no way that structure had been built by a mason. There's no way. I'm like, that would not have passed fire code. We were in one out off of Herb Street, like near the dump.
Okay.
Right? We're talking probably 1980s house, big, beautiful home. And these people use their fireplace, right? They use it all the time. And then they had insurance inspection come in and they're like, nope. And so they
stop using it.
That's it. So they had to have it rebuilt, wet certified, all that stuff. When we opened it up, we're like, wow, we need to actually rebuild the inside of this box.
Holy smokes.
From the outside. Jeez. Right? I'm like, how did this ever pass? We run into stuff like that all the time.
Yeah. Because it was a different time back then.
Well, that's it. It's like a get her done time, right?
Yeah.
Not necessarily get her done right.
Yeah, no, just get it done.
Right?
Yeah.
As far as like, we did some of the work on that one church on Shanley Street. And off of a lift, no problem. But you're right. Like as soon as you start opening up walls, sometimes it's multiple widths. Sometimes you open it up, it's all rotten wood.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to deal with that. And the good news is it's not your first time up there typically.
Yeah.
Right. And you've got somebody else to reference on. So you bounce the ideas, you find the solution, you make the repair.
That's it.
Right.
Yeah. Problem, solution.
That's it. It's all it is. Yeah. And most things are not so scary.
No.
Right? And if they are, well, then you put things in place to make them less scary.
That's right. You got to have that sense of confidence, right?
Yeah.
Going into certain projects. Because even for myself, like now we're tackling some very large projects. And before there was a time where I'm like, holy shit, like, can we do this?
Right.
But I wouldn't overthink it too much. And, you know, I live my life by Nike's slogan, regardless, just do it. So that's the way I look at it. I never really just think about it. I just do it and we make it happen, right?
Nice.
So for you guys work with obviously a lot of scaffold, but you guys are in those man lifts,
Yes.
right? And like scissor lifts and things like that. So obviously, when it comes to your setup as a resto crew, what does that kind of look like? Because there's no like telehandlers and forklifts and, you know, climbers, hydraulic elevator work and platforms and all that kind of jazz.
No, every so often we're on a site where there is one and the guy is nice.
Nice.
Right?
Good.
So they'll lift our material up on the scaffold for us and then they run away.
Yeah.
And that's okay, right? That's all we need. Just get it up there and we'll do the rest, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But no, our setup is usually really simple. If we're doing something like building envelope restoration, so like high-rise apartment buildings where we're having to take out all of the brick units and deal with vapor barrier, sometimes having to use special wall ties and things like that, we're up there with the simplest of tools. We're up there with as many brick as we need and a bucket of mortar.
That's it.
Yeah, there is no room for a mortar board. There is no room for fancy stuff because most of those lifts have a capacity of about 500 pounds.
Yeah.
And it's less the higher you go up.
Of course, yeah.
And you're like Captain Ahab sometimes, right? You're like holding on to the building, holding on to the lift because you're like, that thing wants to rock you.
Oh, yeah, I know. I'm definitely familiar with that. I've been on a few and they definitely like to move around, and especially the further you go out.
Yeah.
So, no, I can definitely relate to that. So obviously, have you ever even operated a telehandler before or anything like that? No, never?
Never.
Which is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
So you guys, when it comes to tools, you guys use a lot of cordless stuff too?
Yeah. And we'll also run a lot of power.
Okay.
So cordless when we can.
Yeah.
Right. But if we're doing a lot of removal, cordless is...
You don't want to go through batteries, right?
Yeah, it's not efficient.
So with the cordless tools that you guys have, like, is it DeWalt, Milwaukee? Like, what brands do you guys even care about brands as long as it works? Like, as long as it does the job?
We don't care about brands. You would laugh. I think when it comes to like removal tools, we just invested in a Hilti battery powered saw. Oh, it's fancy. It's fancy. Are you kidding me? Troy like kept it in the box, put the blade on, and put the blade through the box. So it's kind of
come on. No, he didn't.
Yeah, he did.
Oh my God. I hope you guys have a picture of that. That's crazy.
In the shop. I'll take a picture for you.
I love that.
It's
I'm going to do that with the quick cut.
Yeah.
Leave it in the box and just cut out like where the blade is.
That's right.
And keep it nice and shiny all the time.
That's right. It's going to be the baby.
Because you know masonry. Nothing lasts.
No. Oh, no. Oh, my God. The number of times, I think we have killed 3 saws, right? But we don't use them the same way you guys do, right? So we'll use them just for removal and cycle them through. So there was this fantastic small engine mechanic who was working out of Battlefield in Waterloo. She was incredible. Nice. She could fix anything. Then she got promoted. And the guys who are working there, they're good guys. They're not going to touch her aptitude. Like, wow. They really got a lot of work to do.
Wow. Wow. Big shoes to fill.
Big shoes. Yeah. And she's like 6 feet tall. She's a big girl, right?
Yeah.
But wow, is she ever an amazing mechanic?
Amazing.
And I every time I talk to her, I'm like, we love you. We miss you.
Yeah.
Please go back in the shop.
Please get demoted, please.
Right. But the saws, my God, we use them for everything. We do so much brick replacement season after season. And in the last couple of years, been a lot of chimneys. So the other thing that we use a lot is the chipping guns, right? Rotary hammer drills.
Yeah.
We use them constantly. So those we don't actually use cordless. We will run power from wherever we have to, and we will run it all the way up. Yep. If that means that I'm running like 5 100-foot cords, then that's what we do, right?
Yeah,
we tell the condo super, we're like, this might trip your breaker.
Yeah.
So we need you on hand.
Always making sure you guys got constant power at every job site you guys go to.
Oh, yeah. And we have a little generator. So in a pinch, like we will take that out if we know that it's going to be a problem.
Of course.
And we bring it out. We've had to use it like twice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's nice, obviously, with the cord. Yeah, some people say otherwise, but it's nice because you know you got constant power all the
Yep.
time. No battery is going to die. There's not going to be a downtime where you're like,
No.
oh, I got to switch the battery. Oh, the battery's all the way down there. And then,
No.
you know, it becomes a process when you could have done that much more work,
Yes.
but now you're switching batteries.
No, and there's no
And the
interruption.
dust, though, like with the
Yes.
terminals of the batteries, because we have a lot of power tools too
Yep.
that we use.
Yes.
And the dust that gets in the slots, like the terminals where the battery connection is, then you got to clean all those all the time, and
Yep.
like just becomes a pain in the ass.
It is a
so
pain
there's
in the
times
ass.
even with grinders, you guys use a lot of
Oh,
grinders.
I
I
love
love
it.
going direct power cord
Yes.
because
Yeah.
then I don't have to switch a battery, and then it dies
No.
in the
Right?
joint.
Yeah. And sometimes get stuck and you're like, okay, so
Yeah.
that was fun.
Yeah.
And now I need to go and wail on this with a hammer
Yeah, yeah.
to get it out.
Especially when you're in the
Yeah.
groove of things, and
Yes.
then boom, dead battery.
No, it's not cool.
Yeah.
No, so we haven't done too much with the cordless.
Okay.
Admittedly, I know that's the green folks. That's where they really want us to go.
That's what they're
And-
pushing. We were
Yeah.
just at the expo, and
Yeah.
literally, it's literally all about making an entire job site
Yeah.
cordless.
And I'm like,
Like I think they got like a microwave now.
yeah. Yeah.
I think they got a microwave now. They got some crazy shit out.
And
You
it's
know
cool.
Matt Tishon?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Tishon Masonry. Like
Yeah.
he does what you guys
Yes,
do. That's
he
his
does.
specialty as well.
Yeah.
And he is we call him the Milwaukee King because the guy's got every single
Yeah.
Milwaukee tool you can think of, almost. And I think he's getting the boots that they just released.
Really?
Like he's keeping up with all those tools. So
That's awesome.
yeah,
It's great. We know that for some things, you want your top end. So you
Yeah.
want your Hilti, you want your Milwaukee.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? But honestly, we've got some powerhouses that are like no name.
yeah.
They're
The
not.
Ryobi's, you got the Ryobi.
No, my God. No, we do, but those are for the kids like
Yeah.
remote control
Yeah.
cars.
Black and Decker makes some tools, I think.
Oh my God. I tell you, when I met Troy, I had Black and Decker everything.
Amazing, amazing. And some people be like, who's this Mickey Mouse tradesperson
Right?
with the Black and Decker
yeah, yeah.
tool?
I'm like, watch me.
Here we go.
That's it. It's on.
Yeah.
But no, now he's got an assortment of things. But I tell you, there are some like, ride or dies.
Yeah.
Right? The old Makita saw.
Yep.
That thing, you cannot kill it.
Yeah, like Quick Cut,
Yep.
Makita.
Yep.
Yeah, I've seen them.
He's
Yeah.
got one that is got to be 15 years old. I think he bought it secondhand.
Okay.
And that is the saw that will never die.
You guys still have it?
Yes.
It's still going?
Yes.
Putting it to use?
Yes.
Amazing.
And I love it because
I've
it was.
gone through so many saws. You have
No,
no idea.
well, there's
we
some-
do use them a little bit differently, but
And there's something to be said. So, like, it is very easy to be really hard on a tool like that. It is
100%.
really easy. And there's ways to be a little bit nicer to them.
I
right?
agree.
Right? There are, like,
I agree.
there's ways.
It is nice
Yeah.
that, it's you guys and your apprentice, so it's
Yep.
more controllable.
Yes.
With 30 employees, it's
Yeah.
different.
No, you can't.
So it's so tough.
What are
And
you
I
supposed
find
to
myself
do?
buying a shit ton of saws and it's, they're not cheap. But
No.
I have a question, like, what would be your preference? Like, is that Makita like battling out the Husqvarna, the Echoes? Really?
Yes. So it's funny, right? I don't think they make them like that anymore.
Yeah.
Like so many things, right?
It's like an old seasoned bricklayer that you would
Yes.
say, they don't make them like that anymore.
Are you kidding me? The old season bricklayers, everyone I've ever met, I'm like, they need to bottle you and put you into the trade school. They need to spray you on people.
I love that. That's
And-
staying in the mental
right?
storage here. I'm going to remember
we
that.
need you.
Yeah.
We need you. There's not enough of you. And if you think you're done, you're not. You
Yeah.
need to teach. That's your job now.
Hell yeah.
Right?
Hell yeah.
And they're like, I just want to retire and go fishing and drink beer. I'm like, no. No, let me help you.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, you don't want to do that
Yeah.
because you'll stagnate and then you will die.
That's right.
Right? That's what will happen if you actually fully retire. And they're like, oh, I'm like, yeah. So
Yeah.
try to get into the trade school. You
Yeah.
got me?
Yeah.
That's always a fun conversation.
I feel like you would make a great teacher.
Oh, I
I
would
feel
love
like you would
to.
make a great teacher.
Thank you. Thank
Seriously.
you. I would love to.
Yeah.
It is something that I would really love to do. I feel like I have so much more to learn, but then I know the instructors that I do know that I am friends with, they say, well, I learn all the time. And I'm like,
never
good.
stop.
No,
Yeah.
but they even learned from the kids who were coming into trade school,
Yeah.
right? I learned from my apprentice all the time. I love Nolan, right?
Nice.
He is such a hard working
How long has he been
apprentice.
with you guys?
So he was with us all last season, and he's coming back.
Nice.
So it's
Good.
really exciting. We're really lucky.
Cool.
And he was actually a referral from Adrienne Barrett at the trade school at Conestoga. And it is excellent. We could not have asked for a more engaged, a more hungry. Like he really wants to learn.
Yeah, he's coachable.
He's so good. And little by little, right? There's things that he never used to like doing that he'll like cleaning, right?
Yeah.
But he'll do it, right?
Nice.
He'll do it because he's like, well, clearly this is part of all the job, right? It is everyone's
It's a part
job.
of the full scope. Like,
That's it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if you're not willing to get on the ground, then, you know, what are you doing standing over anybody?
Yeah.
Right. So you got to do it all. So it's nice to see a younger person see that, do it, action it. Like it's been a really beautiful thing.
That's amazing.
And I love being able to show him stuff. You're right. Like I really do love it. But I have so much to learn myself that I'd feel a little out of place just yet if I was to be invited, called upon, given the nod, right, to teach at the trade school. But I do plug myself like every time I talk to Renee Latoile. I'm like, so, you know, anytime you need an instructor, every
if there's
time.
a suggestion box at Conestoga College at the Masonry program, I'm going to slip something in there for you, Sarah. Okay.
I love talking to them about it. So I volunteer every year and have for as long as I think it's run at the Jill of all trades. I think
Cool.
I
we had Felicia on the show. She was talking about this.
I was so excited when Felicia came out because I think I've missed 1 year.
Okay.
And that was before I was involved in Masonry. And it's awesome. It's all these young girls coming through, most of them like grade 10 students. And they go through the college and they go through all the different trades. And usually you have like a group of 20 at a time. And it's a very condensed instruction, right? Like, so I'm like, this is your trowel. This is how you hold it. This is mortar. And this is brick. This is how you hold it, right? And we're going to build these little chimneys. And it seems really dorky, if I can say that. But then once they get into it, they're like, ew, I don't want to touch this. It's very dirty.
Ew.
And then you'll get the other girls who are right in there. And they're
Love
like
it.
sandwiching things together. They're making
the mortar. Let's do this.
There are those.
I love it.
In all the time, I think we've had 4 girls go through who said, I could do this. I want to do this. And there is one young lady, I think she actually did go through the Jill of all trades, and she apprentices with Konya, with Lori Martin.
Oh, cool.
Right?
Yeah.
And she might be working with a different foreman. But anyhow, good girl wants to do it, right? Wants to learn it. And
Excellent.
I'm so happy to hear it. And I'm like, I wouldn't care if it was a guy or a girl, but it is kind of cool that it's another girl.
Of course.
Right?
Of course. I love seeing more women getting involved. And at one point, TMC Masonry had, well, you were there with us, Felicia, and Rocio was the laborer.
Yeah.
So it was really awesome to have a lot of women a part of TMC Masonry, and Peyton as well. So it was cool because a lot of people were noticing that about TMC Masonry, and I'm always more than happy to welcome more women with TMC Masonry, and especially apprentices who are whether they're at OMTC or Conestoga, like, give us a shout. Like, we would love to welcome more younger girls or boys. I don't care. You know what I mean? You have a passion for this, then we're welcoming you to our crew.
Well,
100%.
to hear that you're willing to take on apprentices, I think is a big deal.
Yeah, we've started more aggressively now. We have one, his dad is actually a teacher at OMTC, Frank Eckert.
Oh, cool.
And his son Joshua is a part of our team, and he's our apprentice. And we're actually going to be taking one of our operators and converting him into an apprentice as well.
No way.
And I have been pushing them through OMTC, but regardless, whether it's Conestoga or OMTC, as long as they get that knowledge and they do start with their level 1 and work their way through, and we're here to support them with that. So definitely keep that in mind as well for anyone that you talk to out there.
I will. No, that's
because I know you
exciting.
do volunteer, right, at these programs, and I would love to have some of the leaders of these programs be a part of our show to help expose this, right? So because that is the goal with our show. So But as we come to a close, Sarah, there is some questions that I'd like to answer, or that I would love for you to answer. And there's not too many questions,
Sure.
but regardless, we'd love to get your feedback and answers. So first question is, what is the most bizarre thing that you've ever seen on any job site? Craziest thing? It could be, you know, with KW Masonry or even in trade school or at GA. It doesn't matter.
I'm trying to think. Goodness.
I'm sure there's some bizarre shit out there, Sarah.
God, I've worked with so many like clean and like normal people.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's not anything.
So like for me too, it was we had a raccoon, that was a crazy incident, and they're rabid.
Oh my God. Okay, so I did have one. It was not with a masonry site. I was working on a Hilton hotel build for a concrete company that I worked for in one of our off seasons, actually one of my first off seasons. Mm-hmm. And the Zoom boom operator was this awesome guy. Hand to my heart, like wicked guy. I don't know how this happened to him, but it was lunchtime for everyone else. Operator, of course, still working as he's moving materials. He's getting everything ready for everybody.
Putting in those hours.
Backs right over a brand new GMC pickup truck.
No.
With like the front end of that truck, toast. God. It wasn't even 6 days old, like that the guy had it. And he'll never live that down. He'll never live
I've always thought about
what would happen.
Knock on wood, I haven't hit any vehicles. I've never had an incident like that being an operator in all my years. And I just know what that would do to my heart.
Oh, yeah. And he's a solid guy. He wasn't doing any crazy drugs or anything like that. He wasn't overtired.
Just a simple accident.
It was it was probably just a matter of like his shifting gears, clutch, brake, and just missed something. Right?
Shitty.
And the guy whose truck it belonged to, he's in there having his lunch.
Oh, he's in the truck.
Yes.
Imagine that, just taking a bite of your sandwich and this huge rough terrain forklift tires.
Yep.
That's nuts.
Yep.
Okay, that is pretty crazy.
It was a good one.
That was a great answer.
That was a good one.
That was a great answer.
That was in Brampton. I forgot about that. I'm like, there was that. And then on the same job site, not so crazy, but it goes back to like safety.
Okay.
We used to have to shovel and blow off the roofs, right? Like the core slabs.
Yep.
Okay. So every core slab is a roof until it has one on top of it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're up there getting ready to work, and there's a bunch of, I would say scabs, guys coming in working non-union for this company, and their job is to get all the snow and ice off. Well, they weren't looking. They didn't see the guy below them, and there was like a soccer ball sized clump of ice.
No, I see where this is going.
And they nailed the one guy, right? This guy was already like crazy, right? Like he'd come out with all kinds of outlandish stuff. You'd look at him, like every time you looked at him, you're scrunching your face. You're like, oh my God, I can't believe he just said that. Oh my God, that just came out of his face, those words. Anyhow, he got nailed in the head. It was just
wrong guy to hit.
Right? Oh my God. He's okay. He's okay, but it could have been so bad.
Absolutely.
They
like
sent him,
what floor were you guys working on?
So that block came from the 5th floor of a hotel. So we're talking like 10-foot ceilings, right? It could have snapped his neck.
Yeah.
So he was so lucky, but that's why it's always so important, kids, to look around.
Safety. Be aware.
Wear your hard hat. Oh my God.
Yeah, and be aware of your surroundings.
Yeah, because all this guy had to do was look down. But like they say, you're most likely to have or cause an accident in your first couple of months of doing anything.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right.
It's what scares me about my teenager on the road.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, sweet Jesus.
Yeah.
I watch her park.
But don't think about it too much. Don't put that out into the universe.
No, man. No, you can't.
Yeah.
You got to know that as long as you look out for each other and communicate. Sometimes you're yelling to communicate. You need to make sure you're seen and heard.
But that's a thing too, you know, working a part of any team.
Yeah.
It's not just about the production that's going up on the wall or whatever it is that you're doing, but it's also the safety side of things.
Absolutely.
Working as a team to make sure everybody goes home to their families at the end of the day with no injuries and, you know, none of that stuff happening.
Absolutely.
So,
and any type of crew. Doesn't matter. But no, that's it. Those are the craziest things I've seen.
There it is. You guys heard it. If you could have worked alongside any historical figure, dead or alive, Who would it be? And what would be the first question that you would ask them?
Oh my God.
know.
I think I'd want to work with Robert the Bruce. He'd probably hate women.
Robert, sorry.
Robert the Bruce, right? So
Elaborate.
he was like king of the Scots, and he went into battle. And I would want to know what was going through his head, right? When he decided to embark on like a war against such a superpower. That's what I would want to know.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Talking to somebody like that.
Yeah.
It'd be pretty interesting conversation.
Yeah, because I'd like to say I'd love to talk to all the Masons who worked on like old Fort Henry.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm thrilled when I'm such a masonry nerd. Oh my God, right? So anytime I look at any building, big church, I mentioned.
And where's Fort Henry again?
So that's Kingston.
Kingston, okay. I believe I did go to that one.
Right.
My parents brought us to a lot of the different forts, I guess. I wasn't a big historical nerd, but
I did that to my kids too.
Okay. Amazing. And you bringing that up right now, it's so true. Like, imagine the shit they had to go through.
Right?
Because there was no telehandlers. There was none of that.
No, my God. And it's all like
huge
limestone.
Huge.
Everything. Massive.
Yeah.
Right? And the prison there is so cool.
Yeah.
And a lot of it built by prisoners.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, that's neat.
Insane.
I'd love to talk to some of those people.
That would be cool.
Right?
That would be cool.
Yeah.
So what's a habit or routine you've adopted recently that's made a positive difference in your day-to-day life?
I play.
Okay.
I've taken, it sounds really corny, but I take like 15, 20 minutes and I just focus on playing with my dog.
Cool.
Right? Well, because
I like that.
my partner's got his video games and all of his stuff with his son, and my kids are doing their own thing.
Yeah.
And like I said, they can get themselves places now, so they don't always need me. And I'm like, but he needs me. I know that's corny, right? I'm like,
Reggie needs Sarah. Reggie needs Sarah.
I'm like, because he's so friggin' bored all day long, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, I go out and I kick the ball, and I'm like, it's actually funny, but it takes so much of the stress that I am presently dealing with, and just flushes it out.
It's playtime.
Yeah,
I love
silly,
that.
right?
No,
Yeah.
not silly at all.
Yeah.
Like, it's just because I have young children.
Yep.
And I love to play with them with whatever it is they have, their Hot Wheels or whatever it is.
Yep.
Because you kind of separate yourself from everything else.
Yes.
It's almost like a sense of meditation,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So
No
I definitely can
phone.
relate to that.
Yes.
Yeah.
No,
Cool.
and it's so freeing, right? Because
Yeah.
we spend so much of our time shackled.
Back to your inner child.
Right.
Yeah.
And we need to. Oh
I
my
think so.
God. I talk to people all the time. I'm like, this digital age is great, but also is kind of damning.
It can become toxic and poisonous.
Yeah.
So that's why that is important.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you touched on that. What's the most memorable piece of advice that you've ever received, and how has it influenced your decisions or actions?
The higher up
She laughs first.
the higher up the tree the monkey goes, the more his ass is exposed. That's by Wayne Hobbs. And
I love that.
right? He was a boss that I had when I worked at
That's
Sunglass
going in the
Hut.
mental filing cabinet.
Right?
Sorry,
It's a
I
good
love
one.
that.
Oh, are you kidding? He had all kinds, but that was one of the ones that stuck with me. He talked and taught me about performance image and exposure when I was working towards middle management in retail. So I was traveling, I was training at 19 Sunglass Hut locations.
Wow.
And so I had to really look the part.
Yeah.
And I had to perform. I had to have like incredible sales. I had to have awesome customer service results. I had to have all this stuff in line. And that wasn't me.
Yeah.
Right. So I was like a lump of coal. I needed to be polished, right? That little bit of advice stuck with me. I haven't seen or spoken to Mr. Hobbs since like 2011. Wow. Right. And that was when he said that to me. We were in Miami, Florida.
Okay.
I can pinpoint exactly where
That's
and
amazing.
when. And it was a real directive for me at the time. Like I needed to embody exactly that. Right. I needed to be that monkey. And
That's amazing. That's amazing. I'm glad you never forgot that piece of advice.
Yeah.
Glad you carried it on with you
Yeah.
throughout the rest of your life and to current day. Reflecting on the past year, what's one proud accomplishment?
Oh, I'd have to say,
Or many of them.
You know what? There's a couple, but I would say encouraging my boss and partner to take on some things that made him uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right? Take on, the upstairs addition of a house. I'm like, look, we can do this. Right? And being able to do that while ushering in an apprentice, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Right?
It's good to give people sometimes a friendly push.
Right?
In the right direction.
I'm like, we can't always, like, as much as you love being in your wheelhouse, if you never step outside of it, then you don't learn.
That's right. It's good to get uncomfortable sometimes.
You have to.
Don't always stay inside the comfort zone.
No, I did. And I'm so happy I did. Like, I worked with your guys, and I am forever grateful for having worked with your guys, working for the very small time I worked with G&A, even working with Fritz Alder, Serious Concrete, right, doing the precast stuff, because I have learned so much, right? So that's more than just in this last year, but like, if I didn't take the opportunities that were given to me and be humble and say, okay, I don't do this stuff. I don't know this stuff. So I need you to show me, then I wouldn't learn.
That's right.
Yeah. And I'm so glad that I got to, and I still have a lot to go.
Of course.
Right? Yeah.
Of course, we all do.
Yeah.
Our mission with this podcast is to inspire the next generation to explore the world of trades. What advice can you share with them to help recognize the fact that this is actually a very rewarding industry? It's a very rewarding community and network to be a part of.
Well, if it hasn't already come across, you get to have some really good friends, right? It is your opportunity to build things, to be a part of building things, to make things happen and not just put them down on paper. Those things are still valuable, but I tell you, getting to walk away every day from something and be able to say, I did that, or help make that, I contributed to getting that done, it feels so good and it's so freeing. And if you think that you can't do it because you think it's dirty, it's heavy, maybe you think you're no good in math, you don't have language skills, all of that will come, right? All of that will come. If you are not that book person, if you are that hands-on person, you're going to surprise yourself with all of the so-called book skills that you're going to be able to put into action. And all of a sudden, you're going to find yourself actually able to know things and talk about things in day-to-day conversations because you actually know them. You're not just memorizing things and regurgitating them. You're not learning by rote. You're learning by do, right? That would be my advice, right? And don't be a chicken. Try, right? If you don't think you know what you want to do, I love masonry. It's wonderful. But because I work in resto, I get to dabble a little bit in other trades. I get to tap the shoulder of other trades, carpenters, plumbers, electricians, right? Because I can't touch everything, right? And sometimes I have to bring somebody else in. You might find that those things are more you, and that's okay. But you can try them. And there's more and more programs coming out all the time, like the Triad Trade at Conestoga College, the trade exhibitions that are coming to all different high schools and local colleges, even outside of the Kitchener-Waterloo area. I know Mohawk is one that's been doing a lot of that to give you a chance. So take the chance. That would be my big advice. Take the chance. Don't be a chicken. One of the most successful welders I know, he walked onto a job site and he told them he could weld. And he did the weld test and he passed. Wow. He's been a welder for 25 years.
Amazing.
He's my friend's kid brother.
Amazing.
Right? But it is funny, right? Because he was like, well, if I don't ever do it and no one ever gives me the chance, he's like, then I'll never get to do it.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So, yeah, you got to just put yourself out there, ask for the opportunity, and take the chance.
That was such a great response, Sarah. Thank you so much. And I'm sure whoever, the viewers at home that listen to that, it's going to impact them like it just impacted me. I'm sitting here as if I was, somebody not knowing where I was going to go within the trades. And, that's a nice, very nice response. And I know it is going to impact people. Thank you so much. There you have it, folks.
Thank you.
Sarah Cowie here at the Masons Conversations. That was such a beautiful conversation with her. So
Thanks for having
Thank
me.
you for being here.
I'm so glad.
Much. Yeah.
We'll see you next time.
That was awesome. That was awesome.
Oh, thank you.